1. Let me tell you about this absolute gem I found on Craigslist. A 1959 Chevrolet 3100 pickup that's honestly priced at $28,900. This is the kind of truck that makes you stop and stare. Coming straight from Arizona's dry climate, this beauty is a rust-free dream with a monster 400ci V8 under the hood, paired with a 350 automatic transmission. The red paint is gleaming like it just rolled off the showroom floor, and I've got to say, the chrome work is absolutely stunning. Those perfect dent-free bumpers are just chef's kiss. What really catches my eye is the attention to detail. The cab corners and rockers are solid, which is rare for these old trucks, and the undercarriage is clean as a whistle. They've kept it period correct with the Armstrong steering and drum brakes, but added some modern touches with newer wheels and tires. The interior's been refreshed with a new headliner, and check this out. They've done the bed in this gorgeous weathered gray wood with stainless strips that perfectly matches the interior. That's the kind of thoughtful detail that shows real love for the build. At $28,900, this is seriously good value when you consider similar 3100s are going for $45,60K. It's not trying to be a perfect trailer queen. It's meant to be driven and enjoyed, but it's definitely car show ready. With only 15,000 miles showing on the odometer, this truck has plenty of life left to give. For anyone looking for a classic Chevy pickup that combines style, reliability, and value, this is it. These 59s are getting harder to find, especially in this condition, and this one's priced to move. Just imagine cruising down the highway in this piece of American history. 2. We're looking at a 1978 Ford F100 that's caught my attention, listed at $14,500. Let me give you the honest scoop on this classic pickup. This is a short bed single cab F100 powered by the legendary 302 V8 5.0L engine, a powertrain that's known for its reliability and easy maintenance. With 107,000 miles on the clock, this truck has seen its fair share of roads, but these engines are known to run well past 200K when maintained properly. Now, let's talk about what makes this truck interesting. It's wearing a patina paint job, which means it's embracing that worn, vintage look that's become really popular in the truck scene. It's sitting on 15-inch rims, which is a practical size for a daily driver or weekend cruiser. The seller's description is pretty straightforward and somewhat brief, which makes me think this is a what you see is what you get situation. They mention it runs and drives, but I definitely want to check out the mechanical condition in person, especially given its age. At $14,500, you're in the ballpark for these trucks, though the price might be a bit optimistic depending on the mechanical condition and how well done the patina finish is. The seller is open to offers, which is always good to know. For anyone interested in classic Ford trucks, this could be a solid choice, especially if you're into that patina look and don't mind a truck that might need some TLC along the way. Just make sure to give it a thorough inspection before pulling the trigger. 3. Let's talk about this interesting 1965 Chevy C10 that's popped up for $19,000. This one's got a bit of a story to tell, having made appearances in a 2023 film and some catalog shoots. Let me be completely upfront with you. This truck has both some cool features and some issues that need addressing. Under the hood, you've got a 350 Edelbrock V8 with headers and dual exhaust, which is a solid powertrain setup. The truck's got power steering and power brakes, which makes it more comfortable to drive than a stock 65. The seller's been pretty honest about what needs work, and I appreciate that transparency. There are some rust bubbles that need attention, the interior needs finishing, and there are several mechanical items that need addressing, including the wiring harness, fuel gauge, speedometer cable, and steering column. These aren't deal breakers, but they're important to factor into your decision. On the positive side, there's been some recent maintenance done, January 2024, including new brake lines, white wall tires, moon hubcaps, and a new bench seat cover. The custom oak bed and side rails are a nice touch, and those chrome bumpers and stainless steel grille give it some extra curb appeal. The blue paint job is custom, though you'll want to check those rust bubbles carefully. At $19,000 with an apparent appraisal of $25K, you're looking at a truck that could be a solid investment if you're willing to put in some work. It's not a perfect specimen, but it's got good bones and some Hollywood history to boot. Just make sure you're comfortable with tackling those needed repairs, or factor in the cost of having them done professionally. 4. We're looking at a 1970 Chevy El Camino that's caught my attention at $9,500. And let me tell you honestly what we're dealing with here. This is a California black plate car, which typically means less rust, and it's packing a 350 V8 with some nice performance upgrades. Brawler, 4-barrel carb, Edelbrock intake, and headers. The aluminum radiator is a smart upgrade, and you've got power steering and power disc brakes, which are always welcome features. The B&M shifter and rally wheels add some muscle car flair, and that cowl SS hood is a sweet touch. Now let's be real about the condition. This El Camino needs some love. The seller's being upfront that it's been sitting for a while, and both the paint and interior are described as really old and need to be redone. It needs a new exhaust system and some general TLC. With 40,000 miles showing, we're likely looking at 140,000 or 240,000 actual miles, given the age and condition. But here's why this is interesting at $9,500. El Caminos from this era, especially solid California cars, are getting harder to find at this price point. Yes, you'll need to invest in paint, interior, and mechanical work, but you're starting with a solid foundation and some decent performance upgrades already in place. If you're looking for a project car with muscle car DNA and unique style, this could be a great starting point. Just make sure you're ready for the work ahead. The price seems fair for what you're getting, especially in today's market. Just bring a mechanic for an inspection since it's been sitting, and budget for those needed improvements. 5. We're looking at a 1977 Ford F-150 with an asking price of $21,500. And I've got to be honest, this price needs some serious discussion. Let's start with the positives. The truck's running a 351 engine paired with the bulletproof C6 automatic transmission, which is a solid, reliable powertrain combination. The seller claims 67,000 miles and emphasizes zero rust, which, if true, is impressive for a 46-year-old truck. But here's where I need to be completely straight with you. The seller's description is incredibly sparse, which is concerning for a $21,500 asking price. We're not getting any information about the truck's maintenance history, recent work done, condition of the interior, or even the paint condition. The "zero rust that I am aware of" statement also leaves some wiggle room that makes me a bit cautious. At $21,500, this F-150 is priced in the territory of fully restored examples. While classic truck prices have been climbing, you'd expect a much more detailed description and comprehensive photo set at this price point. The lack of information makes it crucial to do a thorough in-person inspection before considering this price. For anyone interested, I'd strongly recommend asking for detailed photos of the undercarriage, engine bay, interior, and documentation of any restoration work that might justify this price. While it could be a clean survivor, you'll want to verify everything carefully. Remember, a clean 77 F-150 is desirable, but make sure you're getting what you're paying for at this price point. 6. We're looking at a 1969 Chevy C10 that's listed for $5,500. And let me give you the straight scoop on this classic pickup. First things first, this is definitely a project truck at this price point, but it might be worth considering. The seller mentions a rebuilt 350 V8 engine and rebuilt transmission, which is a good start. They've also put in some work with new drum brakes, a new driveline, and new tires. The clean title is always a plus. Now, let's be real here. The odometer's broken, showing 6,000 miles, so we have no idea about the actual mileage. The seller's description is pretty bare bones, which usually means there's more work needed than what's being mentioned. At this price point, you should expect some issues that need addressing. For $50,500, you're getting into this C10 at a pretty reasonable entry point, considering today's classic truck market. However, the minimal description means you'll want to do a thorough inspection before pulling the trigger. Check for rust, especially in the cab corners, floor pans, and bed. Verify those rebuilds, and make sure the electrical system is functioning properly. This could be a decent starting point for someone looking to get into classic trucks without breaking the bank, especially with that rebuilt drivetrain. Just go in with your eyes open and expect to put in some additional work. At this price, it's worth checking out if you're comfortable with taking on a project. 7. Let's talk about this 1966 El Camino that's up for grabs at $12,000, and I'll give you my honest take on this unfinished project. First off, let's address the elephant in the room. This is an incomplete project car that's been sitting since 2020. While it's been garage kept, which is good, any vehicle sitting for 3 years is going to need some attention to get back to reliable running condition. Under the hood, you've got a Chevy 350Ci engine with a 2-barrel carb, which is a common and reliable swap for these cars. The seller notes it runs and drives. But after sitting for 3 years, you'll want to check all the usual suspects: fuel system, brakes, seals, and rubber components that might have deteriorated during storage. The mileage shows 59,075, but on a project car from '66, take that number with a grain of salt. The interior is described as very clean, which is a plus, but we'd need to verify what stage this project is actually in and what still needs to be completed. At $12,000, you're not overpaying if the body is solid and the mechanicals are sound, but you need to go into this knowing you're buying someone else's unfinished project. That can be either a blessing or a curse. Sometimes you get a head start on a build. Other times you inherit someone else's problems. Quick note: the seller listed this as FWD, which is definitely an error. These El Caminos are rear-wheel drive, so that's likely just a listing mistake. 8. Let's talk about this 1979 Chevy Blazer that's listed for $17,500, and I'll give you my honest thoughts on this square-body beauty. This is a 2WD Blazer running the classic 350 V8 engine with an automatic transmission. The seller notes it's been garaged, which is always good news for these vintage SUVs. With 42,827 miles showing on the odometer, you'll want to verify if those are original miles or if it's rolled over given the age. What's interesting here is that it still has its original top. These removable tops often got damaged or lost over the years, so having the original is a nice plus. The white interior and sound system are mentioned, and importantly, the seller has maintenance records, which is somewhat rare for a vehicle of this age. Now let me be straight with you. The asking price of $17,500 is in the higher range for a 2WD Blazer from this era. While square-body Blazers have been climbing in value, most buyers prefer the 4WD versions. However, if this is a truly well-preserved example with documented history, it might justify the price. The seller's description is pretty basic, so you'll want to inspect several key areas. Check for rust in the typical spots: rocker panels, wheel wells, floor pans. Verify the condition of that original top, and make sure all the removal reinstall mechanisms work properly. Also, note that the seller listed it as FWD, which is definitely a mistake. These were either RWD or 4WD. 9. Let's talk about this 1981 Ford F-150 that's listed for $10,000, and I'll give you my straight-up thoughts on this classic pickup. We're looking at a short bed F-150 with the inline-6 engine paired with a manual transmission, a combination that's known for reliability, if not overwhelming power. The odometer shows 72,065 miles, which could be original given the era and condition described. The seller's highlighting some recent updates: new rims and tires, a new steering wheel, new stereo, and a fresh paint job. It's also passed its smog check, which is always good news for a vehicle of this age. The blue paint looks fresh, and being a short bed, it's got that desirable sporty proportion that many buyers prefer. Now let's talk value at $10,000. While the price isn't outrageous in today's classic truck market, I'd want to know more about the mechanical condition. The description is pretty brief. We don't know about the transmission condition, brake system status, or any rust repair history. The 6-cylinder models typically command less than the V8 versions, so that's something to consider in the pricing. For anyone interested, I'd recommend checking the usual trouble spots: floor pans, cab corners, bed mounts, and frame rails. Also, verify the quality of that new paint job and make sure all the mechanical updates match the cosmetic ones. This could be a solid daily driver or weekend cruiser, especially with that reliable inline-6 engine. Just make sure to do a thorough inspection and maybe negotiate on the price depending on what you find. 10. Let's talk about this 1966 El Camino that's listed at $21,500. And I'll give you my honest take on this southeastern beauty. This El Camino is packing a 327 V8 paired with a TH350 automatic transmission. A solid, reliable powertrain combination that's perfect for these vehicles. Being a southeastern car is a big plus, as these typically suffer less from rust issues compared to their northern counterparts. The seller's confidence in stating it looks in person like it does in the pictures is refreshing honesty. The 60,900 miles showing are claimed to look correct, and the truck comes equipped with power steering and power brakes, which make it much more enjoyable to drive than a non-power assisted version. The Flowmaster exhaust system should give it that perfect muscle car rumble that these cars deserve. At $21,500, we're in the territory of well-maintained, clean El Caminos. The price is actually pretty fair for a rust-free example with the 327 V8, especially if the condition matches the seller's description. The seller seems no nonsense with their no trades, no games approach, which often indicates they know what they have. For anyone interested, this could be a solid buy if you're looking for a clean 66 El Camino that you can drive and enjoy immediately. The combination of southeastern origin, desirable powertrain, and claimed condition makes it worth a serious look. Just make sure to verify the mechanical condition and do a thorough inspection. But this appears to be a straight shooting seller with a clean example of a classic El Camino. 11. Let's talk about this 1978 Ford Bronco listed at $24,500, and I'll give you my honest thoughts on this classic SUV. Let's appreciate the seller's straightforward honesty here. They've got a California-born Bronco with the desirable 351 engine paired with a 4-speed manual transmission, a combo that enthusiasts love. The factory quad front shocks are a nice original touch, and power steering and brakes make it more manageable to drive. Now, let's be real about the condition. The seller's refreshingly upfront that this is not a show truck, just a driver. They're clear about its imperfections. It needs seat upholstery work. The paint is what they call a 10-footer, meaning it looks good from 10 feet away, and there's no AC. The truck's got a lift kit and newer wheels and tires, which is a common and practical upgrade for these Broncos. At $24,500 firm, we're in the middle range for classic Broncos. The California history is a big plus, suggesting less rust issues. The removable top is a key feature, and you'll want to check its condition and functionality. The seller's attitude of don't really want to sell it but just throwing it out here often means they've maintained it well, but won't entertain lowball offers. The 79,000 miles shown could be original, given the overall description. For anyone interested, this could be a solid buy if you're looking for a driver-quality classic Bronco that you can actually use rather than just show. The price is fair for what you're getting, especially considering the California history and desirable drivetrain combo. Just go in knowing you'll need to address the seats and accept that the paint isn't perfect. These Broncos are only going up in value, and finding one with good bones like this is getting harder. 12. Let's dive into this seriously impressive 1967 El Camino that's listed for $27,000, and I've got to tell you, this one's got my attention. This is a California-built and California-kept El Camino, which is absolutely crucial for these classics. Under the hood, you've got the 327 engine paired with an M21 4-speed manual transmission. That's a dream combination for many enthusiasts. The 12-bolt rear end is highly desirable and known for its durability. What really sets this El Camino apart is its impressive list of options. We're talking power steering, power disc brakes, power windows, rare for 67, and working vintage AC, that's a huge plus. The blinker tack, SS gauges, bucket seats, and center console make this a seriously well-optioned example. Even has a retro stereo to keep the period-correct feel while providing modern sound. Being a Southern California truck means the undercarriage is clean and original. No rust repair nightmares here. The black and yellow plates further verify its California heritage. The seller's note about it being a great highway driver that tracks straight is important. These cars often need alignment work, so that's reassuring. At $27,000, we're actually looking at a fair price for such a well-optioned, rust-free example, especially with that desirable drivetrain combo. The M21 4-speed alone is a valuable component, and finding one with working vintage AC and power windows is pretty rare. 13. Let me tell you about this interesting 1970 Chevy C10 I found on Craigslist. Listen, for $13,000, you're looking at a classic pickup with some meaningful upgrades. The original power plant has been swapped for a more modern 1997 fuel-injected 350 V8, which honestly is a smart move. You get better reliability and easier starting than the original carbureted setup. It's paired with the trusty TH350 automatic transmission, which is basically bulletproof if maintained well. What's really unique about this truck is its triple gas tank setup, 2 under the bed and a new one behind the seat. That's some serious range for long trips. The power steering is a nice touch too, making this old workhorse much more manageable in daily driving. At 140,000 miles, that's actually pretty reasonable for a vehicle of this age. The yellow paint and clean title are definite pluses. While it's not a completely original numbers-matching showpiece, it seems like a solid driver-quality C10 that's been modernized in the right ways. Being straight with you, at $13K, you're in the ballpark for a good condition C10 in today's market, especially with the fuel-injected engine upgrade. Just make sure to check for the usual rust spots these trucks are known for, particularly in the cab corners and bed. But overall, it looks like a decent deal for someone wanting a classic truck with some modern conveniences. 14. Let me tell you about this sweet 1966 Ford F-250 I spotted on Craigslist. For $12,500, we're looking at what appears to be a really solid piece of American truck history. The star of the show here is that beefy 390 V8 engine, and let me tell you, these engines are absolute workhorses with tons of low-end torque. Paired with a 4-speed manual transmission, you're getting that authentic, engaging driving experience that's hard to find in modern trucks. What's really catching my eye is the mileage, just 79,000 on the clock. For a 57-year-old work truck, that's impressively low. The twin I-beam suspension setup was revolutionary for its time, and with those overload springs, this truck was built to handle serious work. The seller mentions it's been maintained with newer tires, a fresh battery, and a recent tune-up. All good signs of proper care. Being honest here, the price point of $2,500 is pretty fair in today's classic truck market, especially for an F-250 in excellent condition. The white paint looks clean in the photos, and that clean title is always reassuring. This isn't just some beaten-up old work truck, it's a well-preserved piece of Ford's heavy-duty heritage. What makes this particularly appealing is that it's being sold as a shop truck, suggesting it's been maintained and probably hasn't been abused. The 390 4-speed combo is a desirable powertrain setup, and these old Fords are known for their reliability when properly maintained. For someone looking for a classic heavy-duty truck that can still put in work while turning heads, this F-250 seems like a solid choice. Just remember to check those typical rust spots around the cab corners and bed mounts during inspection, but overall, this looks like a clean example of an increasingly rare heavy-duty classic. 15. Let's talk about this 1977 Chevy C10 Cheyenne short bed I found, and I'm going to be completely straight with you about this one. At $10,500, we need to address some red flags right off the bat. The truck won't pass smog due to high hydrocarbon readings, and there's $1,300 in back registration fees. That's a serious consideration for any buyer, especially in states with strict emissions laws. You're looking at additional costs right out of the gate. Now, let's talk about the good stuff. The truck's got the classic 350 small block V8, which is basically the bread and butter of Chevy trucks. The owner has put in some decent parts: an Edelbrock Performer intake manifold, new distributor, AC Delco ignition components, and fresh fluids throughout. The interior's been redone by the previous owner, and there's a new Alpine stereo system. Nice touches for daily enjoyment. Being totally honest here, $10,500 seems a bit steep considering the smog issues and back fees. You're really looking at nearly $12,000 all in before even addressing the carburetor problems. While the Cheyenne trim level and short bed configuration are desirable, and the black paint looks good, you've got to factor in the potential headaches of getting it emissions compliant. This could be a good project for someone who knows their way around carburetors and isn't in a smog-strict area, but I'd definitely try to negotiate that price down considering the issues. The parts list shows some good maintenance, but that smog failure is a significant hurdle that needs to be factored into the value. 16. Let me tell you about this seriously interesting 1976 El Camino I just found, and this one's got some real thought put into it. For $14,500, we're looking at what appears to be a well-executed resto mod El Camino. The star of the show here is that LT1 engine swap from a 96 Impala SS. That's a smart upgrade that brings modern fuel injection and reliability to this classic. Paired with the 4L60 transmission, you're getting overdrive capability for comfortable highway cruising, which the original setup couldn't offer. What really catches my attention is the thoughtful approach to this build. They've addressed all the supporting systems, a PSI wiring harness, Racetronics fuel pump setup, and they even swapped in the entire Impala fuel tank. That's doing it right. The big aluminum radiator and B&M transcooler show they're serious about keeping everything running cool and reliable. The suspension, steering, and brakes are all new, and they've even gone through all the bushings, including fabricated heavy-duty rear body mounts. That's addressing a common El Camino weak point. The vintage Air AC system is a fantastic addition for modern comfort, and the audio system with JL speakers and Pioneer head unit brings modern sound quality. With only 2,000 miles showing, presumably since the rebuild, and that L88 Corvette hood scoop adding some muscle car attitude, this is a pretty complete package. The seller mentions they've put more money into it than they're asking. And honestly, looking at the parts list, I believe it. For $14,500, considering current market values and the quality of components used, this seems like a fair deal for someone wanting a modernized El Camino that can be driven and enjoyed reliably. Just make sure to check the quality of the fabrication work and how well everything's been integrated, but the parts list and approach to the build suggest this was done thoughtfully rather than just thrown together. 17. Let's talk about this 1985 GMC one-ton service truck I found on Craigslist, and I'm going to be completely straight with you about this one. At $12,000, we need to have an honest conversation here. The seller themselves list the condition as fair, which is refreshingly honest but also a red flag at this price point. We're looking at a work truck with 130,000 miles on the clock, and while these old GMCs are known for their durability, that's still significant mileage for a vehicle of this age. The listing is surprisingly sparse on details. We know it's got a V8, likely the 454 or 350, an automatic transmission, and rear-wheel drive. But that's about it. Being a service truck, it probably has utility boxes and storage compartments, which can be valuable for someone needing a work vehicle, but the lack of information about their condition or the truck's service history is concerning. Being completely honest here, $12,000 seems pretty steep for an '85 service truck in fair condition. These trucks were built to work, and after 38 years of service, you're likely looking at wear and tear that needs addressing. Without more details about recent maintenance, mechanical condition, or the state of the utility features, it's hard to justify the asking price. If you're interested in this truck, you'll definitely want to do a thorough inspection. Check for the usual rust issues these GM trucks are known for, especially in the cab corners and frame. Also, test all the utility features and make sure the service body is solid and functional. 18. Let me tell you about this absolutely killer 1978 Ford Bronco XLT I just found on Craigslist, and there's a lot to be excited about here. For $15,000, we're looking at what appears to be a well-maintained, thoughtfully upgraded classic Bronco. Let's be real about the mileage first. The odometer has rolled over, so we're looking at 155,000 plus miles. But don't let that scare you. These trucks were built to last, and this one's got the maintenance records to back it up. The powertrain is the robust 400M V8 paired with the bulletproof C6 automatic transmission, a combination known for its reliability. The drivetrain is solid with a high-pinion Dana 44 up front, That's the good one, folks. And a Ford 9 rear end, connected by an NP205 transfer case. Basically the holy trinity of durability for these rigs. What really impresses me is the recent maintenance list. New brakes all around, fresh ignition components, new U-joints, rebuilt front end, new motorcraft carb, and the list goes on. The owner has clearly taken care of the important stuff. Those 31 BFG mud terrains on centerline wheels give it the perfect stance without going overboard. The orange paint is original, which is impressive for a 45-year-old truck, and the seller notes minimal rust, a huge plus for any classic Bronco. The interior sounds well preserved, with excellent seats, especially the rear, which is often trashed in these, and a factory-correct carpet kit. The modern touches like the Kenwood Bluetooth stereo with marine-grade speakers add daily driver convenience without compromising the classic feel. 19. Let me tell you about this seriously modified 1971 Chevy C10 that's caught my eye, and we need to talk about that $27,500 price tag. First off, this isn't your average C10. It's been built as a pro street-style truck with some serious modifications. The tubbed rear end is a major alteration that shows this truck was built with performance in mind. Under the hood, you've got a 350 small block V8 with an MSD 6A digital ignition system, which suggests some performance upgrades in the power department. The exterior's got that clean, custom look with shaved door handles, a French tailgate with a wing, and LED taillights. The black paint gives it that menacing presence, and those new wheels and tires complete the Pro Street aesthetic. Four-wheel disc brakes are a huge upgrade over the original drums, making this truck actually stop as well as it goes. Inside, they've gone with a leather sport bench seat with a cooler center console, a nice modern touch. The insulated cab and tinted windows suggest this was built to be driven and enjoyed comfortably. Now, let's talk about that $27,500 asking price. While it's on the higher end for a C10, we need to consider the extensive modifications and apparent build quality. However, remember that heavily modified vehicles can be harder to resell, and you're paying for someone else's vision. Being completely honest here, this is a dealer listing, which typically means there's some room for negotiation. At 93,305 miles, it's not a low mileage example, but with these builds, the mileage is less important than the quality and maintenance of the modifications. 20. Let's talk about this 1982 GMC Sierra I found on Craigslist, and I'll give you my honest thoughts. At $16,000, we're looking at what appears to be a well-maintained classic Sierra with some desirable features. The short bed configuration is always popular, and it's powered by the reliable 350 V8 paired with a 700R4 transmission. That's a solid combo that gives you both decent power and an overdrive gear for highway cruising. Now let's address some important points. The seller mentions the odometer is broken, so while it shows 81,500 miles, we really don't know the true mileage. That's something to keep in mind. However, they've noted that all running gear has been recently rebuilt, which is a significant plus if documented. The truck features vintage air, which is a great addition for modern comfort, and power steering makes it much more manageable in daily driving. The new interior is another positive point, as these old truck interiors often show significant wear. The original paint is a double-edged sword. While it's cool to have original paint for authenticity, you'll want to inspect it carefully for wear, fading, and any potential rust hiding underneath. These early 80s GMCs are known to rust in certain areas, particularly around the cab corners and wheel wells. Being straight with you, $16,000 is on the higher end for an 82 Sierra, even in excellent condition. While the rebuilt running gear, new interior, and vintage air add value, you'll want to verify all the work that's been done and get a good look at the overall condition, especially considering the unknown true mileage.